to this course, Task 1A, King. This year we're looking at recreating the song King by Years and Years. Edexcel has chosen a fantastic song for us to recreate. As per all years, it's really important that we get the setup right. So we're going to just take this video and just look at the setup, okay? I would suggest that you don't go too far with this project until you've got all the elements that we discuss in this video in place. Failure to do this will cause you a lot of trouble later on. I've had students in the past that just wasted 3 to 4 months because they just didn't get the setup right and they found things were out of sync or they didn't quite fit or they were nudging things around when they really didn't have to. So let's just say setup key to the success of this piece, okay? So first off, let's just make sure we get the filing system right. So as you can see from this screenshot in front of you, we've got this folder. It's called King. It's called Logic Profiles. So straight away, somewhere on my desktop, somewhere on your desktop, when you open up Logic or your own door, you should set up a folder that basically says you're going to house all of those files in that place. A lot of my students don't actually know where this folder is. So that's the next thing I'd say to you guys is make sure you understand where you place that. Is it in your documents? Is it on your desktop? Is it somewhere else that you save it? You do need to know that. What Logic does is it allows you to start Logic straight away and go into the very last project. But if something happens 3 or 4 months down the line and you start several hundred different projects, you could easily lose this particular one. So just know where you save it. The next thing I'd say about saving is do iterations. So when you get to a point, do a save as, so file save as, and just call it Task 1A King 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. And I tend to do that quite frequently, especially if you get to a point where you say, actually, I really like where I'm at, and I might now mess it up because I'm going to try some things that maybe I'm not comfortable with. So doing iterations gives you a chance to say, actually, let's just go back. Let's dump out what we've done in 0.5 or 0.6 and let's go back to 0.4. So that's a great thing. So iterations, make sure you know where things are saved. And that's the first thing. So next thing, let's set up the project. So we're doing King. We've worked out that it's 120. Now, you do have to check this for yourself because here's our timeline. I've set my BPM up at 120 and I've put my metronome on. And this is something you need to do is listen to the whole track all the way through and make sure that you agree it's at 120. Some songs, they tend to move off and on the beat as well, so you might feel, I personally don't feel this, but you might feel that actually one part of the song is 115 and one part of the song is 120 and it moves ever so slightly. For my money it's 120 and that's it. Make sure you've got it set up at 4 beats per bar, so we've got 4 beats per bar here. We can do this up here as well. For me, I believe that this key is in B minor. You might think it's in D major, and that's completely up to you. It really doesn't matter. The only reason I think that it's in B minor is just purely because the first chord that's played is in B minor, and some of the notes and the melodies suggest that it's in B minor. But you can make your own decision. The most important thing is you've got 2 sharps. You've got F sharp and C sharp. So if you're playing this on your keyboard, the F is now an F sharp and the C is now a C sharp, and that pretty much goes through the whole thing. So those are the parts. So once you've played through to the click track and made sure it's in time, we're then going to look at structure. Before we do that, I do always get my students to bring in the actual audio file. If you're working on Logic and you've got iTunes set up, all I've done here is I've just imported it from iTunes. So if you go to your media bank, which is this one here, and then you go down to your iTunes, and I've literally just dragged it in from iTunes and placed it on. So nice and easy. You might have to synchronize iTunes just to make sure it works as well, but for me that took me about 2 seconds. If I zoom into this point and just show you that actually I've had to pull the 0 point away a little bit. So if you look, let's go out a bit more than this. If you notice, my actual clip starts at 0 rather than 1. It's because the actual track has this little bit of a lead in, and if I didn't move it to 0, it meant all that my numbering would have been out. So the score that Edexcel have provided us would actually not fit with this. So because I pulled it back to before 1, it means that all my numbering is going to be in right. So everything that's in the score is going to be right to what's happening here. So that's something you're going to want to do. And I tend to kind of use my playhead to go through and find the first beat. Now, if you look at bar 5, there's a really prominent first beat right there. You probably won't be able to find the first beat in these first 4 bars because all of these are offbeat patterns here. So it's not prominent until you get to bar 5. So you might even find that it's easier to line up bar 5 than line up bar 1 or whatever. So if you zoom in around this, you can really be quite precise about how you do it. The next thing that I've done is I actually locked this track. There's nothing worse than moving this and actually messing up completely, and that's something a lot of my students also do. Is halfway through the track they've done 3 or 4 tracks, and then they end up moving their reference track, which is the actual Task 1A King song. And I would say to you is make sure you get the right song. This is the single version. So all I've done here is I've just locked it. And how you get to the lock panel is if you right click on the actual track itself and come down to where it says configure track header, you can actually come in here and you can open up the lock. This doesn't make the track locked, it just gives you the icon. So once you've turned that on, you can then come up to here and lock the track. And I thoroughly recommend you get that locked as soon as you've got that track in place. So now let's have a look at the structure. Then I use marker tracks and I colour the marker tracks. The colour panel is here and here, so you can actually colour the marker tracks however you want. And this will just give you, as it's not such a big thing at the moment because there's nothing there, and you think, oh, there's not much point in doing that. But as your piece gets bigger and you get all these extra tracks in, it becomes quite a minefield to find out where you are. And the good thing about colorizing them is you can actually tell what parts you might need to reuse. As you'll notice here, you've got this end part of the chorus 1. So you should be able to copy a lot of that over to that and make use of it again. You've got a verse that you should be able to make use of some of the parts as well. So I tend to colorize them and I tend to work out my structure as one of the first things that I do. It's just a really nice way of getting set up. And what you're going to notice is that the intro is an 8-bar, the first verse is 16, chorus 1 is 16, verse 2 is 16, then you've got this short chorus which is just the first 8 bars, then you've got a kind of a strange section where it's like a bridge but it's a 12-bar section, then you've got the end of a chorus, then the beginning of a chorus, and remember Edexcel wants us to finish at bar 93, 3 minutes 04, and they want you to fade somewhere. It doesn't have to be from 85, but you must be completely faded out by 93. There should be nothing left by bar 93, okay? So they don't need you to realise this last part. So I think that's pretty much it for setup. Get your reference track in, get your markers set up, make sure your BPM is the right tempo, 120. Make sure your reference track is in the exact right place so that everything lines up. You can test that by using a metronome and actually playing through the song. Make sure you've got the right key, and then you should be good to go. So I'll see you in the next lesson when we're looking at creating our reference drum track.